The reviews are in. The second the plugin came out. Oh, okay. That's weird. The greatest plugin in the world right now. Absolute cap. Okay, first off, Infiltrator exists. This Andrew Huang plugin feels like cheating with an affiliate link in the description. Okay. I know I can't be the only person here that's sick of embargo day release content. It's so transparent that it's a marketing campaign. It's so transparent that you can't tell if you can trust these people with their opinion. It's even worse when they have an affiliate link in the description or when they were possibly paid to do it. Now, I'm not going to say if anyone was or wasn't here because I don't know that. But when you see this onslaught of videos coming out the second that a product is released, it makes you wonder. For anyone who doesn't understand, embargo day release content is essentially this. When a company plans to release a product, they send out early copies of the product to influencers, and I specifically chose the word influencers here because they're hoping to influence you to buy the product. They have an agreement not to release the content until a specific day and time. Generally, it's after the product comes out and after the company posts their video. Now, an influencer is definitely different than a content creator because an influencer, they're hoping to influence you. The word influence means that you're going to have an effect on the character development or behavior of someone or something or the effect itself. And essentially what embargo day release content has turned into is 20 people posting a video, essentially almost always praising said thing, and we as consumers are supposed to just accept it and pretend like nothing weird is going on here. It's gotten so obvious that I've seen a lot of consumers complaining about it recently. It wasn't as obvious when it was only 4 people releasing videos on the release date, but now that it's 20 plus people every single time a new product comes out, it's becoming gross to people. I know that YouTube creators want to be the first one with a video out on a particular subject, but overall, the culture of this has had a lot of people become jaded with it. Well, I'm sure some people have noticed it for quite some time now, but it became really apparent after the Ableton Push 3 was released, and then even more so with the plugin we'll be talking about today, the Transit plugin. Anyways, welcome back to an episode of Plugin Police. I'm your host, Plugin Police. Anyways, now that we got that out of the way, I'm going to try my best to give an unbiased perspective on this new Andrew Huang baby audio plugin named Transit. It's a plugin used to design build-ups and transitions. I don't know if design is the right word here because essentially it's a bunch of basic effects that you have in your DAW. The main appeal being that you can control all the macro effects with a single macro knob. It also features an oscillator and a noise oscillator. It has 18 effects. You can shift them around in different orders. Technically, I'd say it's 17 effects though because 2 of them are just filters with different slopes. I'll show the effects on screen really quickly for anyone who wants to know what the effects are. Let me know if you see one that you don't already have in your DAW. Now, while I probably sound like I'm coming on pretty strong here, I do think the plugin itself isn't bad. There are definitely some good things and bad things about this plugin. Long story short, I'm just mad I didn't get a copy. That's a joke. For anyone with an IQ of 80 out there, I couldn't give a shit if I get sent a piece of software, especially one as affordable as this. I have this beat I already made here. You may have heard it in Wave Wars 9 or in that BusyWorks Beats Exposed video. Watch that if you haven't. I'm going to show you what it sounds like dry from the build up to the drop really quickly here. So I haven't used Transit at all in this beat yet, but I'm going to use it at the build up here going into the drop. What I have going on here is I have the one macro knob going up here and it's going over the period of half of a bar. And I'm just going to switch through some different presets so you can get an idea of what this plugin comes with. You know, they're not obviously all going to be hits. Some of them are misses for sure, but it is pretty nice to have a quick way to create different transitions. That one would actually be pretty cool if the volume didn't rise so sharply. So hopefully that gives you a decent idea of what you can do with this plugin. You can use it for other things as well too, but I think the transitions is that's the main focus, and that is the best thing you'd probably use it for. If you're going to use it for other things, there's probably other plugins you could utilize to get a better effect out of. I'm not going to say what you think I'm going to say. Just to show you guys how it works really quickly here, you can add in different effects here. You can't duplicate the same effect, and you can drag them around. Then you can test them out here. You can control how much it's going to shift up by moving the transition knob here. So you can design your own transitions pretty easily too. Overall, I think it's a powerful transition creator. Even if you just automate the main knob up wherever you have your build up and you cycle through different presets, you will get some pretty interesting effects. And obviously you get a different result depending on whether you put it on a group of tracks, a single track, the master track. If you combine this with something like Infiltrator, Infiltrator's the good shit, you can get some pretty creative results. Now I will say the two plugins are a little bit different. I will get into the differences a little bit later. This plugin definitely optimizes the process of doing buildups and transitions. It doesn't do it completely for you though. There are certain things I would do within a buildup or transition that this plugin doesn't do, such as rhythms building up and changing over time. But for effect designs, this is pretty nice. I like that it has noise and oscillator sections because that makes it a little bit different than your average Ableton rack, but I will get into how you can recreate this pretty closely later on. The control you have between shuffling the devices and controlling them all at once is a little bit easier than it would be with an Ableton rack. I actually tried to recreate this completely in Ableton as a one-to-one copy and I struggled to get it exactly the same. There are a lot of things you can do that are very similar though. It's definitely not replaceable in a one-to-one sense, but it could be replaceable by you doing something similar. Another good thing is virtually everything in it is automatable. I mean, just look at the screen here. That's a lot of things you can automate. It can be very useful for fills also. I think that's one other great thing about it. I mean, what is a fill really if not just a mini buildup? It particularly isn't doing anything new. I just think it's the focus of what it's doing that is somewhat new. Now I know Infiltrator exists. I'm going to get into it a little bit later on how it's different. And it is definitely different, but I think Infiltrator could replace it also. It's just more complicated to do so. I just got word while editing, there's a very similar plugin even with the same focus called Infinite. Although it seems like it has less effects, the price is pretty similar. You can recreate a lot of what this plugin does just with an Ableton rack, a combinator, or a patcher of some sort. You can even recreate it just by stacking effects. Some areas in the plugin are lacking tooltips or hover windows. Not many of them though, but just a few here and there. In particular, the looping section with the transition section, I felt like there were some areas they could have provided more information with there. The only way to really get information on it is by watching Andrew Huang's video. Now, there is no undo button, but there's a big but here, massive but. The undo function works with the Control-Z, Control-Y, but this has actually been a problem in the past with certain plugins, but it's not a problem with this plugin, just pointing out why it is an issue certain times. At the intro sale price of $59, this is not a bad deal in my opinion, especially if you're someone looking to build up your workflow using effects. At the non-sale price of $99, it starts to become a little questionable about the value of it, unless you're somebody who really needs to work on your transitions via effects a bit more. Now, one great thing is there's a trial, except it's one of those trials where it cuts out every 60 seconds for 5 seconds, I believe. I generally find those to be pretty annoying. I'd rather just have like a 20-day limit, 30-day limit or something. Now, some effects I think they could include in here, but did not. It'd be nice if there was a reversing effect, a tape stop or pitch drop effect. They could have borrowed some effects from Infiltrator 2, such as comb filters, ring mods, FM, vocoder, varispeed, slow, etc. Can this be done with Ableton Rack, Infiltrator, or Tornado? Yes, but I think what's attractive here about this is the fact that it's focused specifically on transitions. It will definitely save you time as an effect transition tool. I think you could probably do much cooler effects via Infiltrator, which costs £75, so around the same price essentially. But you would have to adjust quite a few of the patches to build up in the same way you would want to in this plugin. But generally Infiltrator does way cooler shit. It just has way more effects in it. It has a sequencer for the effects. It can do a lot. I do think Infiltrator could add a patch, or they could do this in version 3 where they have a mode where you can have a macro that works as a build-up function. Maybe that's something very specific. I could see them not wanting to do this, but it is something that could compete with this and pretty much destroy it because it would be better. Essentially, this knob would have to change the way it affects all the effects within the chain in order to just work with the build-up when it's going on and off. Obviously, you could just program your own patches or edit other patches to go to your build-up, but that's not going to save you time. I tried a few other plugin alternatives also. Tornado is much wilder with the effects it has. It has some more creative options included with it though, such as something called the Dictator. Yeah, I know. odd name choice, which operates as a section where you can have certain effects turn on or off depending on where you have the knob. So it ultimately gives you more control with how the effects are applied with more ease than transit. The results you get with it though are much more insane, as the effects are much stranger and it doesn't seem like it was designed completely for transitions specifically. They are often too insane for a simple transition, so there's definitely a trade-off here. You will get more interesting results with it, but you will most likely have to do more work to get it sounding correct. I also tried out Infinite, which is like a simpler version of Transit. It has less effects, but it essentially does the same exact goal. It has a single knob that you can control all your effects with. The only thing it has that's different really though is the ability to mess with the formant, but it lacks pitch shifting, OTT, ducking, the oscillators, etc. Now is this something I'd use for something other than transitions? Fuck no. I'd much rather go to Infiltrator or Shaper Box. I do think they're overhyping that bit quite a bit. Well, I mean, some people are overhyping this plugin a lot in general. I mean, what was the title? The greatest plugin in the world right now. If you're looking for just a multi-effect plugin, get Infiltrator. If you're looking for an effect plugin that works good for transitions, now I'd probably get this one, hopefully at the sale price. So I saw some discourse online of people saying that, oh, this is just a glorified Ableton rack. In some ways, I can see what they're saying. In other ways, I don't think you can quite get it to the same level. And that's just due to the limitations of how an Ableton rack is designed. But anyways, I was curious to see if I could indeed do this. It's true that all these effects are available in your DAW, but not all of them function the exact same, nor do they function the same when they're all grouped together into a rack. I will leave a link to the Ableton rack that I made down in the description. Obviously with Transit, there'll be a link to Transit as well too. This is my challenge to you. If you want to try to improve the Ableton rack I made to make it better than Transit, or at least as good as Transit, feel free to do so and send it back to me on Discord, and I will update the description with some of the best ones. And obviously I'll credit you too. I am genuinely curious about if this can be emulated completely with an Ableton rack. One issue I ran into is there was no smooth way to do pitch shifting like there is in this plugin. One workaround I found was through using Kiloheart's Pitch Shifter, which is a free plugin. Essentially the issue I ran into is that you can only pitch it up by semitones, and it doesn't jump smoothly between semitones. It just snaps between them. Could go by cents. You only can go up by 100 cents at a time, and then like the only way I could see that you can maybe work around it would be if you had chains where it goes up by 100 cents and then there's another one afterwards where it goes up by 100 cents, and that sounds like a massive headache. Another issue I ran into was having a noise and oscillator in this. Essentially, once you put those in here, it becomes a instrument effect rack, and instrument effect rack doesn't work the same way as an audio effect rack. You can't put an instrument rack on the master. One workaround for this would be to have two different racks, one with the noise and oscillator and another with the audio effects. And you know, you might as well just buy the plugin at that point. Now, like I said, there may be some workarounds to this that I do not know about or haven't thought of. Side note, having to drag in an oscillator or noise sample into your DAW is not a workaround. Don't suggest that. Anyways, that's my rant on embargo release content as well as my review of the Transit plugin. What do you guys think of this plugin? Actually, what do you guys think of embargo release content or this campaign in particular? Did it grind your gears? Did it make you want to buy the plugin? Did it make you sick of influencers? I think it's gotten to the point for me where I don't want to participate in any sort of embargo release content because it really just feels shady. It makes you look shady as an influencer. Whether or not you are being shady, just releasing content together with 20 different people who are all generally being extremely positive and not being completely realistic about it all the time just doesn't feel good to me. For every person that presses the like button on this video, I will blow your legs off in World War III. It just sounds so insane, especially like out of nowhere. There's no reason people think I'm gonna say that right there. If you made it this far in the video, comment that you made it this far in the video down below. If you want to support what I do or you like what I did in this video, consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a channel member. You get perks, obviously. Check out my second channel too if you haven't. I'll link all these things down in the description. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time.
Band Incorporated.